What's up, YouTube? It's Cards with Michael, and today we're opening an entire case of Part the Mistveil, Flesh and Blood. Latest set, of course, and this is sponsored by Donnie. Thanks so much for making this happen. And yeah, let's get straight to it. So, Part the Mistveil, of course, came out at this point almost like 8 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. And it's obviously had a very big impact on the meta. New, Zen, Enigma are all, winning a bunch of things. We're kind of deep into... Actually, we're just finished with the national season. Zen just got a slight nerf. And, yeah. Mystic Heroes doing a lot of work. Transcending and having instants that don't block. Not big enough of a, I guess, downside. And, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and get cracking. Just looking at the back 3 cards, because that's like... where most of the hits are, So, Part the Mistveil has been kind of an interesting set in terms of value. If you've ever followed trends, Khans of Tarkir is like the closest thing to what Part the Mistveil feels like. And that is a set that basically was really good, but its single prices were really bad. And that's because Khans, of course, had fetch lands, and people were cracking boxes like crazy for fetch lands. And it was also a well-received draft set. And so people were drafting it a lot, and basically a lot of boxes were just naturally opened. And that's how I feel about Part the Mistveil. Part the Mistveil, the EV, ooh, a little Rage Spectre. The EV of the set is actually not that high. It's been over-opened, some would say, or just, a lot of singles have entered the market. I mean, one of the ways you can tell is just, like, looking at some of the legendary prices. Obviously, Traverse is quite high because Traverse is basically the most important legendary from this set. It's kind of like the Skull Cap or the Balance of Justice or the Crown of Providence for Mystic Heroes. Like, you really need a good reason not to play it. New, of course, has her own legendary hat, so sometimes... Oh! A little Marvel Path Well Traveled. Okay. Not too bad. Gorgeous card. Look at that. Just a Marvel Path Well Traveled. Alright, so yeah, you really need an excuse not to play it. New, of course, has her own hat, so sometimes she does not play it. But yeah. Set is doing well in terms of sales at the LGS retail level, but we're not I'm not seeing singles prices hold, and I don't think it's indicative of the set being bad. It's actually the reverse. Oftentimes, sets that are very poorly received end up having singles that perform well because no one's opening the set. No one wants to open the set. No one desires anything in the set. So that is not the case with Part the Mistveil. It is a victim of its own success, so to speak. But with a lot of singles being opened, something that does happen is these singles become more accessible. So it's lower barrier to entry, although the cards that are worth money that are staples in all of the decks, and that's mainly Levels of Enlightenment, and of course Traverse, are a bit more expensive. So there you have it. We have, of course, the upcoming Pro Tour, which will feature this set again for draft. We had draft in nationals as well, just a nick. And that also helps drive sealed being open because people are going to have to, practice this set. And the way they practice is by opening the set. Got a whole silence call action. And yeah, that's kind of my spiel on this. And it's very similar to Khans of Tarkir. And so far, this box has been pretty good. Getting a Marvel in any of the boxes basically is just great. Like, it really softens the blow. Now we kind of are waiting for a little legendary extended art would be preferable. But a cold foil legendary of any color will help. The EV, of course, like I mentioned, is a little dampened by the success and the kind of the flood of singles that have hit the market. But that isn't to say that Part the Mistveil is like extremely bad. Like, we're not talking I don't know what's a good set comparison that has like really low EV. For a long time it was Outsiders, okay? And then of course we know what happened with Codex of Frailty, and of course New being an assassin really made a kind of assassin come back in terms of value. I find myself looking through Outsiders bulk all the time for a bunch of cards, like recently looking for scraps, even like Hurl, because Hurl was of course played in the most recent in Juha's Finland Nationals winning deck. We got a Levels of Enlightenment. Nice. Always nice to see that. Yeah, it's been a wild ride with Part the Mistveil. I gotta say, I think I think there have been like very few sets that have really shaked up the meta this hard and really kind of caused us to really critically think about the meta, because the bans really have told me that, man, like Zen has to be extremely powerful, right? Like for them to do a ban like this. And I think that maybe it is possible in the future we won't be able to see aggressive decks that are tuned for this much power, because I think I think the dev team maybe wasn't that careful this time, but moving forward I feel like they're going to be more careful with this kind of thing, you know? That's kind of how I feel about it. Which I don't know exactly how I feel about it. I feel like I'm always, as a competitive player, going to prefer there just to be one overwhelmingly best deck in format or two overwhelming best decks in format, because as a competitive player, that makes testing so much easier. Like, we don't have to worry about the whole meta. We just have to worry about 2 or 3 heroes, and we can gear our decks for those, and we can practice a lot of games against those matchups, because those matchups are the only ones that are, you know, we're hoping to exceed. And if we have more experience and we put more time in the game than our opponents, ideally we have an edge. That not being the case, right, always makes it a little bit more difficult, and it gives specialists usually an edge, because specialists should be more familiar with their deck and all of their matchups, including the fringe matchups, than someone who's just kind of picking up the meta decks. So that being said, of course, I do think that, you know, it's good that Zen was kind of toned down a little bit. You know, when I first read that ban restricted announcement, I was a little disappointed, because I do like the fact that decks that are extremely good, best decks and formats. Oh, we got another Marvel. Holy crap. And we got a Majestic. Same pack. Let's go. We got the Sacred Art Immortal Lunar Shrine. Gorgeous marble. Holy crap. Let's take another look at that. What an awesome case already. Got the levels, got the Sacred Art. Yeah, so like I was saying, I really like having the Living Legend format just be like a way for these really powerful decks to just become Living Legends. As they, like, I think Zen's already crossed the 300 point threshold. So it would take like 2 seasons, basically, 3 seasons if he doesn't win any majors, for him to just straight Living Legend. And I think, to me, that would be more preferred, because it also lets these heroes be powerful during their time, you know? But I understand why they have, you know, kind of given them a soft nerf, banning yellow and blue bonds. Excuse me. Now, that all being said, moving forward, got another Skywalker Kikoi. What do we think is going to be the big bad? I think it's still Zen. I think early testing has shown that Zen is still able to do powerful things, still able to beat up a lot of the decks, but he does feel weaker. Because if you don't play bonds, Blue Gust Wave starts getting a little sus, and the consistency of hitting bonds starts getting a little sus. And you just have to replace it with other cards. And, like, no matter what, the other cards you replace them with are typically not as good. So, yeah, there's that. I think, like, as an Enigma enjoyer, I'm not sure that she gets a lot more from this. And it's supposedly that I feel like New is supposed to be the loser of this, right? But I didn't really feel like New was like dominating that matchup before, and really like being the reason that you should play New. But I don't know. I feel like instead of like New seeing less play or Enigma seeing more play, I think we're gonna see more like Brutes, because I feel like the Brute class has been like so close. Andrew Rotham, of course, made finals at U.S. Nationals. To just being like a stupidly good, solid, streamlined, aggressive deck. And now with one of the other aggressive decks just slightly toned down, I feel like it's Bruce's time to shine. You know what I mean? All that being said, of course, I need to do some more testing with Pro Tour Amsterdam just around the corner. And finally, with the meta, not the meta, but the format is very clear, right? We know exactly what's been banned. We know exactly what the cards that are gonna be legal for Amsterdam are, and so it's back to the drawing board. We're gonna try out different Zen decks, of course. Probably play a little Enigma just because Enigma, I like her as a deck, and people are gonna play New. People are gonna play Azalea, KO. I think a very under-mentioned deck, of course, is Mistveil. It just feels so powerful. Like Shadowborn Horror is just a visible spike to the power of that deck, and unlike KO, Mistveil doesn't have to play as many non-blocks, and so she's like not as vulnerable, in my opinion, to the weakest link. Of course, she does feel a little soft to New, like just because any deck that kind of wants to be pitching blues and attacking with attacks sometimes is quite weak. And of course, you have some really good blue attacks, right? Like Guardian, of course, complains that, hey, like I don't want to get hit by my Macho Grandes and stuff, but New also is able to take blue 5s from Brute, so that's not irrelevant. Bonds of Agony, and I think that actually makes that matchup like just slightly favored for New, especially kind of playing that New that Yuha style. But I didn't do more testing there, but I think it feels very powerful to be able to do like functionally like a 1 or 2 card 15 using your Brute attacks, as you just like throughout the game just banish blue attacks. Yeah, all that being said, it's an exciting time. The ban and restricted announcements makes for a kind of just a different meta. It may not be that fresh compared to Nationals, but it will definitely be slightly different. Before these ban and restricted announcements, I was expecting like 40% of players to be bringing Zen. I myself was probably going to bring Zen. One of those classic, if you can't beat them, join them type of scenarios. I'm not sure that I will still play Zen. But definitely not off the radar, just because he is still extremely powerful. Like, I think our first test game, we went Araihon, double Art of War, and then it was like a 52 damage turn. So, like, it's just a lot, right? Like, 52 damage, if you think about it, is just unfair amounts of damage, because like your opponent always starts at 40, and if they block 12, then they're pretty much dead on board if they can't deal with the damage. Yeah, and I think that interestingly enough, with Bonds being banned, the deck is a little bit more robust a lot of times to Disruption. Like, you don't get hit by Amnesia as hard. You just, like, don't have as many bonds available. And it depends on what you replace those cards with. Like, if you replace them with things like Blanche, CNC, Weakest Links, to be more robust, it does, of course, decrease your ceiling, or even D-Reacts and or Snags. And then, of course, there's the Mirror. I think I am a little disappointed that like the one card I was kind of actually hoping that would be maybe banned or just changed was Ancestral Harmony, because that card, my gosh, guys, like when that card hits and that card misses, the difference is so big. It's an entire card. It's like you're basically because most Zen decks are about 50-50, like 30 some combo, like 30 combo cards. We call it 30. And so 50% of the time, that card is just a Codex of Frailty, it feels like, in terms of sheer numbers. And the other 50% of the time, it's just a Nimbleism that's blue. Like, the ridiculousness of that card is crazy to me. So, yeah, there's that. No. Another Chase the Tail here, and a foil. So in terms of cold foils, besides the two marbles, we just got two Skywalker Cook foils and a wave of Aquamarine. So not too spicy there, but a bunch of good Majestics, levels, and of course, getting those two marbles has been really, really nice. Wondering if we can get a legendary here as we start clearing out box number 4. Here we go. Essence of Ancestry Mind foil. And of course, these are Belgian packs of paper packs, which I noticed that a lot of other TCGs are picking up as well. For example, I went to a Star Wars pre-release this past weekend, and I noticed that they had paper packs as well. Ooh, little foil Siren's Call. I've opened a lot of foil Siren's Calls. I feel like I've opened more foil than non-foil Siren's Calls. Evo Heart Drive. And just about, I think about 13 or 14 more packs till we clear out this guy. Murky Water. It's actually so sad that Murky Water costs so many resources. Of course, being a 6 is really nice, but you don't really want to play too many blues in Ranger in general. And in Riptide, he has 3, of course, solid blues, and maybe you can count Bolton Shots as decent blues, but it's just hard. It's hard to play blues. So I think Murky Water needs kind of like a better bow, a bow that synergizes with aim counters. And if that's the case, then, like, because you can play it off of a yellow. There are a decent amount of good yellows that Riptide can play. Hey, another powerful Majestic, the Weakest Link. Seeing play in a lot of decks now. Like, any deck that can play it kind of just wants to play it. Its effect sometimes is honestly better than Command & Conquer, especially against Mystic Heroes, because Mystic Heroes could double transcend out of their arsenal in the resolution step in response to Command & Conquer's hit trigger. But Weakest Link, of course, is very, very simple. It says you basically have to get rid of those cards or block me out, or you can play them in response to the Weakest Link's trigger. And of course, one of my favorite modes of Weakest Link is just being able to look at your opponent's hand. Like, even if they let it hit and they don't have any no blocks, being able to just say, let me see your hand, is particularly nice against heroes like New, where seeing their hand is almost the same thing as making them discard a card, because if you know that their hand doesn't have any attack reacts, and if they don't have an arsenal, that just feels nice, you know? Alright, so we got 2 more packs, and then we're done. Can we get that legendary in the last pack? Thank you guys for watching this case opening. If you liked it, just leave a little thumbsy upsy, and of course, comment. Ooh, okay. We end with a cold foil Strider Reprisal. This guy could have been banned. You should be happy that you're not banned, Mr. Shoes. And I'll see you guys on the next one.